Hey, you guys can have a seat right where you're at. Man, I'm thankful to get to come into this place and worship like that every single week. There's some energy here this morning that's a little bit inexplicable, but also is very easy to explain. We've got an awesome morning for you guys and an awesome afternoon, actually. A couple of quick housekeeping items. If you don't have our app, that's the best way to know what's going on today. We've got something that's huge coming up this afternoon that we'd like you guys to all know about if you don't already. This is a way to keep posted on those type of things. If we have inclement weather, we have a giving function on here. So as far as tithe and offering, we talk about that from time to time. We do boxes in the back, and we do a lot of that stuff on this. So if you don't already have this, then that'd be a good thing for you to do today. What are really our biggest thing that we have going today is we have a guest speaker. So you want to tell us just a little bit about all
we have a guest speaker today, my friend. He's my friend.
He's your buddy.
He's my buddy.
But like we are friends?
Yeah.
But I'm not friends with any NFL players. Are you?
Yeah, I am.
Dude, crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's good. That's awesome.
No, my friend Clay Shiver is here today. It's going to be an awesome
Clay's got a great
day,
message in just a second, but we have like a luncheon this afternoon. We're blessed as a church to get to have Clay come to talk to us. If you volunteer in any function, we want you there today. We're going to start right at noon. So if you leave and go and come back, be here at noon. You don't want to miss this. We've got some people that they cook. Like they flat cook.
And brought dessert.
That
everything.
have been loading our kitchen up all morning long with goodies that we'll get to dive into. But noon, that's when you need to be back. If there's a lot of people here doing extreme day camp last summer. If that was you, if you volunteer in the nursery, bless your heart. If you serve coffee or in whatever function that you find yourself serving, we want you here. It's an inspiring word from a guy that knows how to inspire. And we're pretty pumped about it. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
well, that's good. That's all we got, right?
I think other than you gotta bring your buddy out.
Yeah, I will. Let me introduce you. And I thought about this morning. I was like, in my quiet time this morning, I thought, how am I going to introduce this guy? And the thing is I thought, man, like they already know about him because I talk about him all the time, right? Yeah. Church, you know that. I talk about him all the time.
It's a lot.
Yeah, Tony. Where's Tony? Tony, we talk about Clay all the time, don't we? All during the week. It's all about Clay.
Tony loves talking about that.
Yeah, so no, it's all about Clay. And so I don't know what else to say. Clay, I got nothing else. So without further ado, would you please make welcome, a river welcome for the Florida State Seminole Hall of Famer, a Florida State All-American, a NFL great, a Dallas Cowboy, America's team. Give it up for Clay Shiver.
That's so good. That's awesome. That's the thing in your.
Yeah, here, take this one. Okay. Take this one. This one's better.
This is the one, huh?
Yeah, let's do this.
This is the one that's Oh, I feel it. Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Let me get you something here real quick, too.
Yep. All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. So this is the if I was gonna come to church here, this is the service I would be at, right? And then I could go home and eat a lot and find something, a ball game to watch or something like that, So if you're here this morning, that's not me. Then I get it, right? You come to the early one, and so welcome, and so we're here together, and so I say I would be here. It would be tough getting my kids here. I think that'd be a little tougher on a Sunday morning, and they would want to come to the late one, and so. But I like this group getting it knocked out, and so good. Welcome. Yep, a little tighter. Okay, that's good. Just coach me up. I'm still, try to be coachable all these years. So no problem. Listen, I love your pastor, and so it has been tomorrow. I actually went back and looked at this because it's been an amazing kind of whirlwind year for me, and tomorrow will be a year ago that. I was in here with you guys, and I still remember, I was trying to remember when I was coming in for the conference over in Branson last year. I was like, wait, now what day did I come in? And then all of a sudden I was taken back to that time, Friday night when, Pastor Paul picks me up, and I hit, I'm freezing. And so from Florida, man, anything below 60 is freezing. And that's the way we talk about it. Right? Like they're like, oh, it's so warm outside today. And we're like, no, it's not. Anybody from Florida is like, no, this is still freezing. And there are certainly, degrees of freezing. But, it's funny. If y'all visit down there and anytime around now, you'll see people. You guys will be in shorts, during our winter, and people will be in these big parkas. Because anything below 60, it's 58, it's freezing, and they get these parkas, they can't hardly move, and so it's going to be 71. The girl on the radio goes, Justin was like, hey, it's -8. Y'all had a cold front come through, and it's like, Dad's trying to fly out of Branson, and it's -8 in Branson or something like that, and they're de-icing the wings or whatever. And he goes, what are you, like, it's got to be cold down there. And I said, yeah. The girl on the radio is like, yeah, it's chilly today, high of 71, and so a little bit different, right? And so that's why people come to Florida. It's especially late in their life. It's heaven's waiting room down there too. So South Florida. And but good. It's good to be here. And I'm, retired football player, as they said. That seems like a lifetime ago. Certainly a different chapter in my life. And but it was a fun chapter, and I enjoyed it. And we're coming into kind of the end of football season, and next week we're going to have what they call Super Sunday. We'll have the Super Bowl and everything, and here's what's give you a little insight as we're getting into this, that no matter who you meet, like we were, at the conference, the wrap up last night for what I get to do, and I say get to do. There are some have-tos in life, but I get to work with a company. One of the big changes in my life that happened, I believe it's a year ago today, is the guys that I work with, Justin and Ray Land, said, hey, you're out here and we're hanging out, and man, we're enjoying you coming out with us, but we want to bring you on full time. And here we are a year later, and I'm full time with Max 4 and Justin. Justin, you want to give him a little wave? And so I'm excited to be working with them, and Ray, our CEO, lives here in Branson, and so it's really, really cool to be working here, and so I'll get to come out more, and I enjoy being out here. It's my kind of people. I grew up in South Georgia, so you guys seem like my kind of folk. So, but what you're going to see on Sunday or any football game that you watch, we kind of have a tendency to put these guys on a pedestal for a number of reasons, and they're really incredible at what they do. I don't want to diminish that, because we might run into someone who is an athlete or someone who's big, and we think, wow, he's a big guy, he should be in the NFL. But when you get around these guys, you do start to understand, in 32 teams, if there's a starter in that position, they're one of 32. And because a lot of countries don't play football, Justin and I were joking about this, is that it is like you're talking about the best in the world. And so you might have, we probably have some Patrick Mahomes fans in the room, right? And so, but even if you had a quarterback on a lesser team, if you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, you are one of the 32 best in the world at what you do. Now, with that being said, it's kind of crazy because they're still human. Many of them will have kids, or they're married, and they may have even businesses outside of football that they have started over the years. If they played long enough, they're likely to have all of those things. And they wake up in the morning, and it happens to be Super Sunday, and they got to go play a game. And not only that, but they may be dealing with things that you don't even know about, that they don't talk about, especially for the last year with Mahomes with the ankle. Everybody knew about that. There's probably about 15 guys on that field that night that were dealing with all kind of strains, sprains, tears, anything that they were playing through that you'd never heard about, because they were a lesser people, or less in the limelight, and they're just people. And as you get into that, man, you understand, like, hey, I got to do my job. I want to do my job. This is what I'm here for. I want to play my position. I want to do my job. And we get into this weird thing, and I'm just kind of processing this with you as I'm coming up with football, where it comes down to the last part of the game, and if the kicker misses, or if a kid drops a ball, or they give up a touchdown or something, we think that guy lost the game, or that guy won the game. Now, if a team wins by 30, we don't think of it in terms of that, because we know there's a lot that goes in to those one moments, right? But we seem to highlight those mistakes, like, wow, that guy, man, if he wouldn't have jumped off sides, or there's mistakes happening everywhere all the time, and there's no such thing as a perfect game, but you just want to do what you're supposed to do, right? And I don't want to let like more than the crowd or, the city of Kansas City or, all the Chiefs fans around the world. When it comes down to it, man, I just don't want to let the guy next to me down, right? This is who I'm working with. This is who I've been, the blood, sweat, and tears the whole time. And man, of doing it for this whole big reason, at the end of the day, in my understanding, that's the way the military works too. Man, I want to do what I need to do for the guy next to me, right? And so as I was thinking about some of those dynamics this morning, I thought, man, what if we could only be more like that in the church, right? We seem to focus on, perfection, and when somebody misses a kick, or stubs their toe or have problems. Now, understand something. I'm not trying to, create some sort of license to sin or that you can just live any way you want to. I'm not talking about that, right? Last year, I think I talked about it's not about the rules, but, breaking the rules is a good way to, foul out of the game or get kicked out of the game or give yourself a prison ministry or something like that, right? You break enough rules. You'd be in there. You have ministry, all right. You'll be from the inside out. You don't want that, right? And so it's good to go in. I've been in those situations. It's great to go in and minister, but you don't want to do it from the inside out necessarily. Okay, so I'm not saying that. But sometimes that becomes our focus. And man, at the end of the day, if we could could we reduce it back to maybe a situation where we go, man, when I wake up today, right, I'm going to come out of the huddle of my house or, come out of the bedroom or, whatever, get my day started. And man, if I can just do what I need to do, what God has called me to do, can I run His play for me today, for the person next to me, for the people around me, for the people I'm in here with, for my community, for my family, for my marriage, right? Are you tracking with me a little bit? And when you put it on that level, it's like, okay, man, I don't know if I can get this done. I got, marriage and kids and bills to pay, and it's overwhelming. And it's like, man, you can get in that big picture where it's like, man, I want to try to win a Super Bowl, but it's like, man, that just seems so far and so overwhelming. And so, no. Can we just do the next play? Right? And so whatever position you're in, today I find myself in a position of, and that's, again, like your pastor that goes, how talented is a guy? Like, I have none of that. And apparently I birthed kids that do sing and worship. My son led worship last night. My wife's like, oh, it's phenomenal. He does such a great job. And I'm like, I can't carry a tune. I try, if I'm in the car or in my house, man, I can really get my worship on with God, but I get real shy around other people, especially Justin sings, and I'm kind of like, So, but at the end of the day, we have different positions. I find myself in this position today, right? Tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and we have a couple of lunches with some people, and I'm in a different position. I'm back to work. I'm in a position that maybe you find yourself in whatever context you're in, right? Does that make sense to you? And your pastor takes a different position on a Sunday. He's able to play different positions. And so anyway, but gosh, if we just reduce it to that. And here's why. All right, as we get into this today, all right, kind of a long way around, because, and I've been here, and I still fight with this sometime, is what the enemy the position he wants to put you in is in this place of condemnation where you feel unworthy to do what God's called you to do. And then, even if you can get out of the huddle and into the game or off the bench and into the game, whatever scenario we might want to use or analogy we might want to use, then you still don't feel like you can maybe win. Because, gosh, I've made mistakes and I'll do this and I can't win. It's like, man, don't worry about how big it is. Don't worry about the past and all this. And can we just get in the game? And can we do this together? And not expect perfection out of each other, but let's do this together and see if we can win. And if we put enough good plays together, right, if we obey and walk with God in such a way, then all of a sudden, then, hey, we start putting some plays together, we start moving the ball down the field, we start to win. And the cool thing about the kingdom is people get caught up in that, right? And then it starts to get really fun, right? All right, so I wanted to talk this morning about the power of testimony. And So as we're here today, and I wanted to kind of maybe think about it from a different situation. We think of testimony as, okay, here's what happened to me when I was young. I got saved, and I was once a sinner, and then I got saved, and God forgave all the bad stuff I did. Here's all the bad stuff I did, and it's like the testimony. Nothing wrong with that, man. I was so impacted by some testimonies even this weekend. But you have this past of all this stuff that was going on, and then God saved me, and then it's almost like we don't have a testimony after that. And see, I believe that's not what God intended. If that's what He intended, then when we baptize you, we just need to keep we just hold you under, and that way, right? Because that's all He intended. We just got to get people to heaven. Well, it's like, okay, we'll get you there quicker. And so, but no, there's something after that. And see, the testimony is included in that. And the world, just like if I'm fighting with it as a believer of being condemned, still with my past, we've got a world of people that are walking around condemned but not convicted. And there's a difference. And see, here's what it says in John 3:32, right? It talks about, here, let me flip to that here. I'm going to read it with you. It talks about what you have seen and what you have heard. Right? What has been seen and heard of this, He testifies. Talking about Jesus, right? We're familiar with 3:16, right? John 3:16. It says He testifies, and no one accepts His testimony. The one who has accepted His testimony, this is in 33, has certified that God is true. He testifies to what He's seen and heard. And what I've found is I believe that's where the continuing testimony should take place. Yes, I got saved, right? But we keep talking about our birthday. That's fine. But, right, at some point people are like, yeah, we get it, you were born. We see that you're here. Like, is there anything else that has happened in your life? Well, certainly a whole lot more has happened in our life, but we seem to focus back on the birth. Or in some cases, we talk about, like, if you're in a marriage, we keep focusing on the wedding day. And it's like it's less about the marriage is what I've found, or less about the day, the wedding day, and more about the marriage, more about the relationship. And as you start kind of processing that a little bit, wait, there's more that has happened. And sometimes it just takes you thinking back to some of the things that God has taken you through to realize, oh, wait, my testimony is bigger than just, oh yeah, I was a sinner and I got saved, and then that was it. I don't know about you, but God has done a lot more since I got saved. I got saved as a kid. And then, I went through a time of wrestling with, like, am I really going to do this or not? And finally I surrendered. Okay, I'm going to fully do this. I don't want just fire insurance, man. I want to get fully into this. God, I want to do this, whatever it takes, whatever it makes me look like. Man, I'm going to go all in on this thing. And thankfully, I did that at an early age, and I know it saved me a lot of heartbreak. It was actually painful. It was uncomfortable. Like, people made fun of me. I had some stories I remember telling one guy, like, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to hook up with girls. We give it a week, let our wives know that we're all about the business, and then we're going to go out and do this. You with us? And I said, no, I won't be doing that. I'm going to try to serve God. And that's kind of the plan I'm on. Oh, so we're going to get you a pair of panties. That's the way you roll or something. I'm like, hey, let me just, and something rose up in me in that moment. I said, hey, let me just stop you right there. I mean, if that's the tact you want to take, hey, that's fine if you want to go there. But I'm going to tell you, I ain't changing. And years down the road, I ran into a guy at a random Starbucks. And he goes, hey, man, do you live here? And no, I don't live here. And I said, oh, you live out here? No, I don't live here. And God lined us up at that Starbucks. I literally opened I could felt someone behind me and opened the door. And there this guy is. And he's got, hey, I just want to let you know, I got saved. In fact, the reason I'm here is because I'm working with some young people to minister to them, with the hope that they got saved. I'm like, wow, right? Guess what? That's a part of the testimony. Is that something I did? No, that's something God is doing, right? I lost track of that guy. I don't know what was happening to him, but God did something in that guy's life, right? And man, you start to get excited about that. And the world's walking around condemned, right, in many cases. And the one thing about the testimony is used to convict people. And I'm at a place in my life that, man, I don't want people around me or anyone who knows me to be like, hey, is that guy a Christian? Well, I suspect he's a Christian. Right? You're, in our country at least, you're innocent until proven guilty. Right? So you become a suspect. I don't want to be a suspect. I'm going to tell you, as I stand here today, I want to have a testimony that God is working through my life where people are not just, I suspect he's a Christian, that they know and I am guilty of being a lover of God and a lover of people, and out of that, they're convicted. And the only way we give testimony is only by what you've seen and heard. You get up in a court of law and say, well, I think this guy said, or he was talking about what he saw. They throw that out. That's hearsay. Get that out of here. The only way you can convict someone is if you say, this is what I saw. This is what I heard. It's fine if you say, man, the pastor said something great today, but at some point that needs to become yours. And in Hebrews, it talks about something interesting, and we don't have time to go back and recap some of this from the Old Testament. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time doing Bible study. And here I read my Bible every day. I love getting into the scripture. And so I'm going to show and trust that you can go back home and look at this. But in Hebrews, referring back to Exodus, it talks about the Ark of the Covenant, or what they talk about, they reference it in this way, the Ark of the Testimony. And it's like, well, that's kind of odd. They call it the Ark of the Testimony. And then you say, well, why is it the Ark of the Testimony? Because they put the testimony inside. Well, then we need to find out what's inside. All right? And so then, without walking you through the tabernacle and how that all works, is then let's just talk about what's inside. Well, there were three things inside. And Hebrews tells us this, again, referring back to the Old Testament, is there's one, is the Ten Commandments. When Moses came down from receiving the Ten Commandments, God took his finger and literally wrote into tablets. He's carrying these tablets of the Ten Commandments, so they put those in the ark. Something else that was in there was the manna, right? The provision. They didn't even know what it was. It's like, that's the word manna means, what is it? Who knows? We don't even fully know what it is. But it sustained them. It was God's provision for them. And they said, hey, we're going to take a jar of that and stick it in there. Okay? So now, we got the Word of God. We got the provision of God. There was something else in there too. Is Aaron's rod, which was the rod of authority. They say, hey, because he stuck it out there, and the rod, without growing, without anything, the rod budded. And they were like, how can something that isn't growing actually grow? Why? Because that is God's rod of authority, something supernatural that God is doing. Right? They say, hey, we got to put that in there. Now, what we understand about the ark is it is the mercy seat, and in those days, right, in the the Old Testament, right, testimony, it was the manifestation of God's presence. And so they carried it before them. We want God's presence to be with us, but also go before us. So we're going to carry this thing. And it was a manifestation of God's presence. Well, we don't have the ark anymore. Why? Because Jesus came and he became the manifestation of God's presence. Then he gets crucified. And what happens is, right, he high-fives the Holy Spirit. I'm through with these knuckleheads right now. And then he sends the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit comes down. We get filled with the Holy Spirit. It's how you get born again, born of the Spirit. You must be, back up in John. You can look all this in John 3. I'll make it easy on you if you want to go back and look at this. John 3, you must be born again. The term there is born of the Spirit. So now you're born of the Spirit, and guess what the manifestation you carry is? Why? Because you become a carrier of the presence. You become like a little ark. All right? And at one point, right, a man dies because he tries to steady the ark, because he's like, hey, we got to make sure this thing is so holy that if it falls over, then, like what's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen, so we got to try to keep this thing boxed up and keep it. And the man dies. Why does the man die? Because it's a manifestation of what God intended for eternity is not to be in a box with a lid. He wants to be poured out amongst his people. And we had a misunderstanding in that instance that, God just wants to be in one place, confined to one place and one people. And sure as I'm standing here, I'm going to tell you what I'm beginning to see. I've been at this a little while. I'm beginning to see God do something unprecedented, not in a certain church, not in a certain place, not in like, revival's breaking out here, or this is a special church or a special ministry. I'm going to tell you, God is doing something in the marketplace. We work with roofers and contractors, and I'm sitting with this roofer before I left. I had to get on a plane on Tuesday. I was had a coffee with him Monday morning, and you think, well, we're going to maybe spend 30 minutes together. So here we are, an hour into conversation, and we start giving testimonies of things that we are seeing God do. And all of a sudden, man, the whole conversation changes, and he goes, man, you won't believe this. I can't believe you're saying this. Man, I'm a believer too. And I just saw a guy, I started telling him, like, man, I think God's doing something in the marketplace. Are you seeing any of this? Man, I can't believe you're saying this. I just saw a guy who's a contractor, didn't know the Lord, got a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, and then we begin to pray for him. He gets saved and gets healed completely of his cancer. And he goes, I just saw him the other day. He said within 3 months all that happened. It's like, man, God is doing something with people, and it's not just in the building, it's in the marketplace. Why? Because people are starting to come to this realization, wait a second, it's not just about the church service. It's about when we leave here, it's not just about the huddle, but it's as we go out, we become little arks. We're carriers of the presence. So what does that mean? As you step into this place, you become a carrier of God's word. That's one of the things you become a carrier of. And it's like, man, I want to get into the scriptures. Well, yeah, that's true. Let's get into the scriptures. I was reading this morning, God willing, I'll be up reading again tomorrow, right? I'm working through Psalms, and I don't think we're using any Psalms today. And so I'm working through that, and I'm going to do that. This is the way it works for me. I'll probably read all the Psalms and some other things, right? But I'm disciplined to read all the Psalms this month because I read them last month, and I'm going to do it, all the Psalms, every month for this year. And that way, at the end of the year, I've read Psalms 12 times. And that's just what I've found. Man, I'll get more coming out of that from Psalms. And it's just the way I found that is great for me. It's an easy way to do it. You may have your own plan or whatever. But as much and as important as it is for us to get into God's Word, at some point you have to realize, man, I need to get this into me. And as this gets into me, there's something that starts to happen with the Spirit of God in me. And as I'm reading this and as I'm believing God through this, then now I'm already a carrier of that. Guess what? I become God's word to other people. And it's not just, hey, I'm going to give them a scripture. You start to encourage them. They're like, man, that's exactly what I needed. I was up, I told a guy, I said, come on, you're late, you got to go up here. I said, I'll ride the escalator with you, and I'm going to pray for you on the way up. And he looked at me like serious? And I go, yeah, I'd be like, let's do it right here, right now. And so I start praying for him, and I said, man, I just get the sense that God's going to start bringing your kids home and even your grandkids, and they're just going to snuggle up with Big Papa. And he goes, huh? He goes, that's what they call me. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't know that. I don't know your grandkids or kids. But apparently in that moment on the escalator at the Branson Convention Center, God gave me some insight that I didn't even know I was having, right? I call my grandfather, we called him Granddaddy. We didn't call him Big Papa. And he was like, man, this is the encouragement I needed, man. I didn't know what was going on in my family. I didn't know what was going on in some of my health things. And in that moment, you get to be the word for that guy. You get to encourage him, right? And so, whatever that may look like for you, you open yourself up and say, man, I'm going to step out. I'm going to believe that I'm a carrier of the presence. Yeah, but hey, I've made some mistakes. And is there a perfect game? We already worked that out, didn't we? There's no such thing as a perfect game. But that guy's next to me right now. Can I run the play with him? Man, can I just be obedient because, man, that guy is next to me now. I want to play the best I can and run the play that's called for the guy next to me. And it's that simple. Doesn't have to be a stage thing. Doesn't have to be, you got to start your own Shiver ministries. That's not a thing, by the way. You don't have to do any of that. So you get to be his word. You get to be, and we're going to move through this a little bit quicker. You get to be his provision. All right. Now, if you have kids or grandkids, you understand that very clearly, right? But I've started to carry the expectation that, man, the people that give to me, that they're going to be blessed. Why? Because I've started to see a pattern that as soon as someone or even a company starts to give, now hold on. Do not come give me money, all right? I'm just going to tell you that, okay? I want to stop and say that. I do not want your money. I'm not telling you this so I can get your money. Again, Shiver Ministries is not a thing, all right? I don't want this to be manipulated in any way. But I start to carry the expectation that as if a company, or I used to do some consulting, or even individuals, they say, hey man, it was on our heart. We wanted to just give you this, that they would be blessed because I've seen report after report after report of God doing something in someone's life. And it seemed to coincide like, hey, man, we went from 6 employees to 25 employees. And I'm like, hey, yeah, that's what should happen. He's promised that he said, I will bless those that bless you. Why? Because you're a carrier of the presence. That's what should happen. Now, let me give you a little testimony of something that happened to me. I used to go down to South Beach and minister to these guys, and I remember I had one guy with me, and he was more of a professional minister. And, I said, hey, we're going to go in with these guys, and I said, hey, look, be prepared. These guys are rough, and we get open doors. These guys, we can go in and minister to them, and we walked in, and I was like, hey guys, we got to clean this up. It was a mess, and then I kind of joked with him, hey, that ain't oregano on the table. And he was like getting all nervous, and it was that kind of group of guys, and so, but professional ministers can get nervous in some of those places, right? And because they're worried about their reputation or whatever, and so we would see God do all kind of really, really cool stuff. And where sin abounds, guess what? Grace superabounds. All right, as you're in those places, or as you find those people, right? Don't give them on people. Right? Even as like, man, that guy he is good at sinning. All right. And maybe that was some of us at one point, right? So if they're good, guess what? Right? That his grace will superabound. All right. So anyway, in this situation, we were going in a meeting, and this guy who lived down there and had got his life right with God and was really pursuing God. And I pulled up and I go, man, I got to park here. And I go, oh man, they're going to tow me if I don't pay this, and I don't have any coins. And he said, man, all I have left. He was actually living with someone else on their couch, and the guy was just broke as all get out. And I told him, I said, hey, I'll take you to lunch after this or whatever. And he said, man, here's what I have. And he had like 3 quarters or something like that. We put it in the machine. Good. Okay, they won't tow us because we got to get in there. If we don't get in there now, these guys will scatter. They'll go. We'll miss our opportunity for ministry. So after the meeting ran long. My wife called me and said, hey, don't forget, you're coaching, your assistant coach is out. You're coaching the kids' coach pitch game today. right? Now, if your kids have ever played coach pitch ball, the coach is kind of integral, right? A dad, you can't stand in, you got to throw the ball to him. And I go, oh man, I got to get up there. Well, I looked at him and I said, man, I told you I was going to take you to lunch. And because I was worried this guy, then he might not eat today. And I said, I'll give you some money. And then I realized I don't have any cash on me either. And I said, man, and I felt horrible. Now this guy had given to me, right? He was my provision. And so I drive him back up to kind of a little bit north Miami. He said, yeah, just drop me off here. And I said, you sure? And he goes, yeah, just drop me here. And I said, man, I'm so sorry. I prayed for him. It wasn't even a faith-filled prayer. Nothing dramatic happened or whatever. Hey, bless you, man. And I was, it was kind of like one of those prayers, like, I got to go. My wife, like, I love you, but my wife, and he gets out. So I'm driving back up. So I get back up. We have the little coach pitch game, everything like that. But I'm worried about him. Even on the way up, I'm praying. God, take care of my little friend down there. And so I say, hey, let me call him. I check him. I'd literally have to call him at the Apple store because he would use a phone in there. And so he called me and he said, man, you won't believe what happened. He said, I gave you those coins, and he said, you drove off, and he said, I literally, all right, man, see ya. And he said, I turned around, and there was somebody getting into the cab and saying, hey, I'm going out of the country, and they won't exchange coins at the airport for currency. And so I have all these coins. Do you want them? And handed them a bag of coins. And he goes, man, there may be $100 in coins here. And it's like, wow, right? Provision, right? We're little arcs walking around. That we get to experience this. And then finally, we get to be part of God's authority, right? And I'm going to tell you how as we get into this. I'm going to go through 3 points today. And so 3 points of this, and we're going to end a little bit with a discussion on God's authority with Aaron's rod. So one is faith is now. If you want to access this, if you want to get into this, well, one, you got to believe that this is who you are. This is the way God's wired you. There are no mistakes, and you can jump into this and be one of God's little arcs trudging around. I don't know why that's my symbol for God's ark. Is that weird looking at? So I don't know, but because they had to carry the ark, I guess. But then we get to be that, around. But faith is now. Carry an expectation that this is what God wants to do through your life. Who, me? Yes, you. Even in the Bible, it says Elijah was a man just like us, but when he prayed it would stop raining, it stopped raining. It's like, well, that's superhero stuff. That's the Patrick Mahomes stuff. He was a man just like us. I'm going to tell you, if they came in today, these guys are men just like you. Are they exceptional athletes? Yeah. But I grew up with I'm the son of a mechanic, and I'm going to tell you, you put anybody who doesn't know cars around a person like my dad is like a superhero caliber mechanic. He can do things with cars that somebody looking at a car like, I don't even know what I'm looking at, right? And so you might be that as a contractor, as a roofer, like I'm saying, or a singer, or like, and I'm like, I have no idea how you just do what you do. That's incredible to me. And for somebody out there, as you're out in the marketplace, you may be a superhero. As you start thinking that way, that this is the way God has wired me, I'm doing what God's called me to do, I just need to do the play today. But you need to start now. Set your alarm, get up early, start getting with God, start carrying expectation that, hey, it's today. I want to participate in this. There's a play that God has called for me today. There's good works set out in advance for you. You just need to begin to walk into it. It's now. All right? So number one, right? Faith is now. There has to be a flow. Obey now. Get in the flow. If there is no flow, the deadest body of water in the world is the Dead Sea. Why? Because there's no outflow. There's nothing given. Just give what you have. I don't feel like I have. It's not about your feelings. My goodness, can we get to a place where feelings are not our God? I get up, I go do what I'm supposed to do. I don't even know what I feel like. I coached for 12 and a half years, coached a small Christian high school football team. And it's like, oh, coach, I don't feel good. Like, who cares? Am I right? Hey, go to practice. Are you a football player? Well, I'm trying. Look, right? I use the Yoda thing on them. We don't try. You either are or you're not. You're a part of this thing. Let's go. You go to practice. That's what football players do. Right? You get up. I don't care what my feelings are. This is what I do. I don't feel like getting into the Bible. I don't feel like trying to get into his presence. I don't feel like, right? Who cares? Push all that aside, right? My goodness. I have a good cup of coffee. Justin makes coffee that'll, man, you try to stir it and the spoon stays in there. Right? Like, wow, that is strong. And that's what I need. And guess what? You get a cup of coffee, your feelings change. Sometimes it's all you need. Like, oh man, I don't know if hey, it'll be a good day. We're going to make it today. And then, hey, yeah, God's doing something. Right? You start mistaking a good cup of coffee for the anointing. Right? Have a good Starbucks and it's like, hey, man, God's doing something. So, not about your feelings. Get into this thing. Get a flow. It's like, well, I don't feel God. Yeah, give something. Find something to give. You got 3 quarters. Give them. You get a basket of quarters. What do you got? Well, I've never healed anybody. Well, you got healing. Why do you say I got healing? You got Jesus. Start praying for somebody around you. And then guess what? That starts to get multiplied. Why? Because the Word says it does, not because some janky old broke down football player says it does. It says, give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, right? Full measure, overflowing into your life. Do you understand? That's not just for me. It's for anybody who will believe. All things are possible for him who believes. Guess what's possible for someone who doesn't believe? Nothing. Nothing is possible for those who don't believe. Whoo, man, I get excited about what God's doing. And I am not like an over-the-top emotional guy, but woo-wee, let's go. All right. How long we got, guys? We good? All right, number 2 in this thing is focus on what God is doing. Man, I have spent enough of my life focusing on what God is not doing. And for goodness sakes, look, I don't know what your brand of news is. Turn it off. We are carriers of the gospel. The gospel means good news. In my experience, there ain't nothing but bad news coming through that TV. There ain't no gospel coming through that TV. Hey, did you hear what's happening over there in Syria? I'm telling you, there ain't a person in this room, probably not even in Branson, that's got any influence in Syria. Now, I'm not saying, look, be aware, like, I get some little blurbs on my phone. I'll check the news every now and then, whatever, and, pray for these things, and, I pray for it. But, man, turn it off, and let's find out what God's doing. I was at a Catholic church meeting years ago, and my business partners, man, it is, thank God, these guys. I was literally in the basement of this little Christian school, and these guys have pulled me out of this, and it wasn't a bad thing. That was God for that time in our life, but I'm in a new season, and so I thank God that I work for. We say a godly company. Well, it's like having a godly build. This is a Christian school or something. Well, did the building get saved? Right? When did the building get baptized? Right? No, it's the people. It's the people. And I've got there's amazing men that lead our company that love God, and I'm so thankful. And you're driving around. I said, "Oh yeah, man! I remember I was at this Catholic meeting, and they wanted us to teach on healing, and see what God might do." And so we were teaching on that, and we were no authority on that, but the guy had a connection. Will you come teach us on some of this? We understand you pray for some people, and it's like, yeah, but everybody could do it. Yeah, but we need to get the pump primed for some of these guys. Okay, and the danger is that we're in this place of theology, like, well, they pray to Mary and they're not even saved, right? Again, okay, I guess we have perfect theology now, right? I appreciate all those perfect theology people that can tell us, right? Just ask them, oh, you have perfect theology? And they're like, oh, no one's perfect. Okay, where are you wrong? They won't tell you where they're wrong, right? Come on. Can we get past some of that? Right? I believe God's looking for hungry people and humble leaders. See, I hear what Paul and Tony do, and again, I love your I got around them a little bit, and I go, man, I can run with it. I can lock arms with these guys because I see humble leaders, and then I get amongst the people, and I go, there's some hungry people here. And that is a recipe for what God is doing. So I don't care what is the name above the door, right? I married a Catholic girl. I look at her and say, hey, Catholics make good Christians. And she'll go, hey, honey, so do Baptists, right? I grew up Baptist, and she grew up Catholic. We're Baptist Catholic or whatever. And we just want to believe God and serve God. We pastored in a non-denominational church years ago, and, man, I just want to believe God for my kids, for my marriage, for the people around me. And so we're there, and I have this impression like, okay, we're going to start praying for people, and it's like, man, I felt like something was going on with someone's kidneys, and it was just a feeling, and I got up, but it was a real strong feeling, and I said, hey, does anybody, before we start praying for somebody, does anybody to start the meeting have any kind of issue with their kidneys? And and the room was smaller than this, which actually almost made it almost more awkward. And then like nobody, and I was like, oh, okay. But it was like I was going to just like shut up, sit down, and because I can be wrong. And so nothing wrong with that. I'll tell you right now, I could be wrong. I've been wrong many a times, but I was really feeling it. So before I could even sit down, I was like, well, maybe it's a back thing or something like that. I don't but I'm pretty convinced there is maybe some kind of kidney issue. Maybe there's even pain or something, anything. I'm just grasping for straws, right? And crickets, and now my faith is like, bleep, and if I was on beep, 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 I'd like, okay, man, I am off. I don't have it, maybe God's not doing this with me or whatever. And so, like we prayed for some people or whatever, and I had forgotten. This was probably 2 decades ago. And so about a year ago, I run into a guy, and he says, hey, John Smith, hey, he told me to tell you hi, and he is so thankful. You remember that night we were at that Catholic church? He's so thankful for you praying for him and healing his back. And I was like, what? I don't remember that. All I remember is after some lady came up and said, hey, you said something about kidneys? And I said, yeah, do you have pain in your back or something like that? That may be you. And she was like, well, I'm on kidney dialysis, and so I thought that maybe that was me. And I was like, yeah, you think that might have been you? And then I spent the whole meeting kind of mad at her because I was embarrassed, right? Because that's the most important thing. We don't want to get embarrassed, right? And I spent the whole meeting, and then I spent the whole rest of that, whatever it was, 20 years, thinking that God didn't do anything because I was so focused on what he didn't do. And then this guy shows up and says, hey, John Smith said, man, you radically, you as soon as you touched him, his back got healed or whatever. And I was like, it did? And I was like, you remember that? He goes, oh, yeah, that dude was messed up, and he got radically healed that night. He did? I spent 20 years focusing on the wrong thing. Man, God is good. It's not because I said he is or anybody said, it's because that's who he is, and he wants to heal his children. He wants to move with his children and through his children. It's just a matter of, do we believe it, right? And then finally, man, we got to get in his presence. And as we get in his presence, we start to understand that we carry an authority. It doesn't matter the title over us. It doesn't matter people calling us pastor or us having some sort of ministry, or I don't know what perception we might have of that, but we carry an authority because this is the way God wires us. And there's an expectation that when we step into that believe it or not, there may be some people out there expecting that from us. I'm going to give you one more story. I was a young consultant in Seattle. They had flown me all the way out to Seattle. We were living in Miami at the time. So that's literally from just about one corner of the country to the other. And I don't even really fully know what I'm doing, really, and this company has brought me in. And I had this experience. As soon as I stepped in the room, here's this boardroom, and I'm stepping in here, and I'm kind of nervous, like what I'm going to say. And I felt like God highlighted this young lady and said, you need to tell her she's going to be a good wife and a good mother. She's going to be an outstanding wife and mother. I felt like it was that simple. Now, it wasn't the time. That wouldn't have been wisdom. So we did our thing, and I had a piece in this presentation, and so working with this group or whatever, and so the meetings wrap up, and I'd spent 3 days with this company, and so the last night she's there, and the whole time I was just praying for an opportunity, and it's with a young lady. I didn't want to be weird, and so she comes up to me, and I'm flying out the next morning early, and she said, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you, for the things you said, and man, it just really, really was so great and so encouraging." And I said, "Hey, thank you very much." And I said, "Hey, can I share something with you?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." And I said, I just feel an incredible, burden to tell you, you are going to be an outstanding wife and an outstanding mother. And she looked at me and she said, "I've been waiting all weekend for you to tell me that." Wow. There's people out there that are waiting on what you carry. Right? And if you'll say, "Man, it's got to be now. I got to make it now. I got to do it now. I can't wait. I can't live in this place called someday I'll. Someday I'm really going to serve God. Hey, I ought to do that." Man, don't live in the oughts and the someday I'ls. Like, you set a clock, set yourself an alarm, a reminder, whatever you got to do. Man, I need to put on some worship music. I need to get into this thing. I need to get in the game. I don't want to be a fan. I don't want to be a sideline. I'm going to tell you, it gets exciting when you get in the game, and there's a world walking around condemned, and they may suspect, I suspect that guy's a Christian, or I suspect he's really a nice guy. That's like the 10th fruit of the Spirit. Let me tell you something. It don't exist. There's not a nice, right? Your kindness, your love, your compassion, that will make impact on people. Your niceness won't do anything eternally. And let's be nice. I don't have a problem with that. But man, let's do what God's called us to do. And as we do that, I'm going to tell you, guys, God will meet us there. He's starting to meet people in the marketplace wherever you live, wherever you work, whatever you find yourself doing. When you leave here, and especially when you get up tomorrow morning, we're going to put our feelings aside and you step into this flow, right? I mean, we had a place called the River, right? Come on, boys, the water's fine, right? Whoo. All right, let's land this thing. Let me pray for you. I'm going to tell you, guys, I am nobody special. I can... I don't remember how old I was. But I remember sweeping the floor of my father's parts room in Little Tifton, Georgia, that seemed smaller than this area, right? And in his diesel shop. And I remember I just began to contemplate, man, God, I want you to do something with me. And I believe that he's been faithful to that desire. Not because I played in the NFL,
Not because there's anything absolutely special about me. There's nothing special. So wherever you're at, wherever you find yourself, no matter what you do or who you are, if you want to get involved in this, man, God is inviting you into this. And we put the past behind us, and we grab hold of this thing, and we start walking around being who God has called us to be. All right, let's pray. Father, I thank you for these men and women and children here today. I thank you that your hand is upon the leadership of this church. Your hand is upon this community. Your hand is upon this people. And that you're going to make this a conspicuous people. God, I thank you for what you're stirring in the individuals here today. God, I pray that you would give them the boldness to grab hold of what you're offering them. And I thank you for faith poured out in this room. Let's just run the next play. To make it about the person next to them, the person they work with, the person they sit beside. I thank you for the families they represent. And I thank you for your word, your provision, your authority. Not only have you promised us that we carry, and we bless you. We give you all the glory, honor, and praise, Jesus. We love you, and in your name, amen. Amen.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, buddy. Love you, man. Love you. So good. Well, did everybody get what you think you needed to get today? Doesn't God know exactly what we need? Yeah, it's so awesome. Thank you, Clay, for doing that, and we want to honor you, and I really want to honor him in what he said. Like, please don't walk up to him and give him money today. Please don't do that. But we are going to bless him. I want to give us that opportunity to bless him today. There's 2 or 3 buckets out there. Some of our men out there, security team, have some buckets out there. If you feel like you want to bless him today, we want to bless him as a church. It's a long, cold trip from Florida, and so get this man a coat or something. And no, we just appreciate him coming, sacrificing, making that trip. And y'all, I'm telling you. I'm a little biased, but this is the greatest giving church I've ever experienced in my life. And you all just show up and you do that, and we're so thankful that you do that. So anyway, without further ado, I want to pray for us, dismiss us. If you want to spend some time, Clay's going to be in the lobby out there. He'd love to talk with you a little bit, hang out with you a little bit, take a picture if you want, whatever. He's good with that, whatever. Anyway, let me pray for us. Father, thank you for what you've done here today. Thank you for showing up in this place. Thank you for bringing your Holy Spirit upon us, and may we take it with us, as Clay just encouraged us to do and to be in life, to walk with your Spirit, to walk in your word, to walk in that provision and walk in that authority. God, that's what you have given us. Maybe grab a hold of that with everything that is in us, and walk in that this week and through our lives. We love you, Jesus, and it's in your name we pray, and we all say, amen. Hey, y'all, see you next week.